One in front of the other, the two old donkeys quickly made their way out of the county town. Jace kept his head lowered, his expression grave. He hadn't expected Soren to actually agree to leave the town, let alone break character and bring him along. This should have been a good thing. But Jace looked back and saw Lord Shen riding on the donkey, flipping through a martial arts manual with one hand, completely absorbed in it. According to past practice, before dealing with fiends, the other party would always dispatch them to buy fine wine and good meat. Calling it etiquette, Jace had always despised this practice, harboring a deep-seated frustration toward it. But going empty-handed today only made him more anxious. If they couldn't deal with those two monsters, the hundreds of farming households in Liuli Miao village would likely be devoured clean before long. Why do you keep looking back? Focus on leading the way. And don't be jealous of my handsome face. Soren skimmed through the manual and slowly closed it. 2 new lines of text had already appeared on his status panel.
Cloud dispersing long fist, uninitiated. 8 steps of the spirit, snake, uninitiated.
A fist and palm style, a movement technique, and his previous fiend-slaying saber technique. These were all the martial arts passed down by the captain of the demon-suppressing division. If he could train all 3 to lesser mastery, he would possess the ability to deal with minor demons. Soren did not dawdle, allocating his remaining fiends' lifespans step by step into the movement technique he lacked most. After all, no matter how sharp the saber, one still had to be fast enough to catch up with the target.
Possessing a profound foundation in martial arts and a robust physique, it took you only 1 year to initiate the 8 steps of the spirit snake. In 3 years, your movements became increasingly unpredictable, reaching lesser mastery in the movement technique. After 6 years, the 8 steps of the spirit snake became second nature to you, reaching greater mastery. By the 11th year, you moved like a phantom, your actions formless, reaching grand completion in the movement technique. Remaining fiends, lifespan 25 years.
Soren felt the changes in his body, inwardly quite surprised. Pouring lifespan into martial arts actually progressed based on his current physical state. As the saying goes, mastery in one area brings comprehension in others. An experienced martial artist obsessed with saber techniques would naturally learn other martial arts much faster. Subconsciously adjusting his riding posture on the donkey, he suddenly felt much lighter, as if he could leap 30 to 50 feet in a single bound. Unfortunately, there was no chance to test it out right now. Soren gathered his thoughts and poured the remaining fiend's lifespan into the cloud-dispersing long fist. While deducing the martial art, he hoped to gain insights into the initial realm. Once again, however, the outcome this time left him somewhat disappointed.
Though not naturally skilled in hand-to-hand combat, through 18 years of relentless refinement, your fists still became like rolling thunder, and your palms capable of shattering stone, bringing the cloud dispersing long fist to grand completion. By the 20th year, you made 0 progress. Falling into confusion, you felt as though you were wasting your time. By the 23rd year, you began to doubt yourself. Having perfected the fist technique, it seemed you had reached its absolute limit. By the 25th year, through years of contemplation, your comprehension of fist and palm techniques deepened, and your talent for them increased. Your comprehension of fist and palm techniques has deepened, and your talent for them has increased.
Having exhausted all of the fiend's lifespan, the gains he received were fully displayed on his status panel.
Cloud dispersing long fist grand completion. 8 steps of the spirit snake grand completion. Fist and palm mastery reduces the time required to practice fist and palm martial arts, increasing the chance of gaining insights.
Aside from 2 perfected martial arts, he had also obtained something akin to a talent. But there was absolutely no news regarding the initial realm that Soren desired. He raised his eyes slightly, calculating the time. Shouldn't the demon-suppressing division be coming to inspect our county soon? Hearing this, Jace, who was focused on leading the way, shuddered slightly. A complex look flickered in his eyes, but he did not turn around.
Answering your lordship, it is in about a month.
How could he not understand? This was Lord Shen giving him a warning. The entire Bayun County Yamen worked hand in glove. Currently, their most urgent matter was to get through the inspection of the demon-suppressing division, making sure to present a picture of peace and tranquility in the county. If anything went wrong, at least half of them would have their heads hung at the Kashiku execution grounds, and the youngest, most handsome one among them would undoubtedly belong to Lord Shen. No wonder he had acted so out of character today. He had been waiting for him here all along. If there was anyone else in the Yamen who anticipated the arrival of the demon-suppressing division captain, it could only be Jace. He truly hoped that the Imperial Court would flay Soren alive. If the other party hadn't been falsifying reports, the Yamen wouldn't have been able to suppress the news at all. The demon-suppressing army should have taken over this place long ago, sweeping the surrounding fiends clean. One man. Soren rubbed his temples. According to his memories, he was merely a minor clerk, lacking the qualification to contact the demon-suppressing bureau. If he wanted to gain access to more profound martial arts, he could only obediently wait. If he could completely step into the initial realm within a month, would he have a chance to join the demon-suppressing bureau? The lifespan of the fiends is still not enough. As his thoughts drifted, the two old donkeys came to a halt in front of the field ridge. Soren looked toward the dilapidated little temple on the hillside. The deity statue was exposed, covered in straw. The altar was half collapsed, and weeds grew in abundance. The farmers didn't even bother to worship the deity anymore, which was enough to show the resentment in their hearts.
Sir, this way.
Jace tethered the old donkey and pointed in the direction. The two of them quickly crossed the field ridge. A group of ragged farmers stood scattered in the distance, their faces gaunt, looking over with vacant gazes. Upon seeing the duo's attire clearly, they crouched back down, without crying out grievances or calling for help. They knew very well who brought about their suffering. Being watched by those distant gazes, a hint of shame appeared on Jace's somewhat youthful face. Upon seeing Soren's calm, nonchalant expression, that shame turned into resentment and anger. He adjusted his bamboo hat to cover most of his face.
Open the door quickly. You will understand once you go in and see.
The yellow hides were not weasels. Demons had their own factions too, mostly bound by bloodlines, establishing themselves as kings on their own mountains. Different factions had different demands for Bayun County. Some wanted fresh meat, some wanted beauties, and others preferred precious treasures. Among them was a den of dog demons that had the closest relationship with Soren. The leading fiends was an old yellow-furred dog calling himself King Yellowhides.
Open the door.
Soren nodded. Jace pushed open the wooden door, only to see a sickening dark red inside the cramped little room. The room was dim, with dismembered torsos neatly stacked on the table. Those that couldn't fit were threaded with straw and hung from the roof beams. A dog demon sat on the edge of the bed, holding a thigh in its hands, chewing expressionlessly on rotting flesh. Its gaze was sharp, like a loyal watchdog protecting a courtyard. After clearly seeing who it was, its gaze softened slightly.
I wondered who it was. What brings you here?
Soren stepped into the room amid the overpowering stench. Jace had already seen this scene, but entering this room for the second time, his face beneath the bamboo hat still contorted slightly. His palm holding the hilt trembled violently, involuntarily drawing the blade 3 inches out of its sheath. He was highly talented, having trained the martial arts passed down from the demon-suppressing bureau to the level of minor mastery in just 3 short years, leaving him fully qualified to fight this dog demon, with a high probability of attaining a costly victory. The reason he had been able to suppress his killing intent earlier and return to the Yamen to report was partly for his younger sister at home, and partly because he was no match for the Yellowhides behind the dog demon. Acting rashly would only invite even greater disaster. Just then, a strong hand silently reached out, pressing his saber back into its scabbard. Jace snapped back to his senses and stared intently at Soren's profile, wanting to see how the other would respond. No matter how utterly devoid of conscience he was, he should at least feel something upon seeing his own kind being butchered and eaten. In his line of sight, Soren finally looked at the old dog. There was neither sorrow nor joy in his eyes, only the corners of his mouth curling up to reveal stark white, neat teeth. He smiled. Seeing this, Jace's heartbeat gradually slowed. He lowered his eyes in disappointment, unwilling to listen to their pleasantries any longer.